Hello and welcome to today's webinar brought to you by SMS. So today we're going to be taking a look at some of the most commonly asked questions that our technical support team will receive, and hopefully along the way give you some insights that might help you find the resolution to any technical issues you might have or experience in the future. And the person I'm actually joined with today is the best place to help us with this, as I'm joined with one of our technical support engineers, Chris Cowell. But before I hand you over to him, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about us. So SMS is a gold partner specialising in providing managed services for mid-market and SME clients. SMS has been established for over 15 years with a portfolio of over 4,500 clients. SMS are ISO 9001 and 27001 certified. We provide 24/7 support for all of our services and our staff are UK based. SMS are, of course, ideally placed to offer that best IT advice for your business to be successful, and we are here to help you get the most out of products like Azure, M365, and Modern Workplace. So I'll run through the agenda very quickly. So we're going to be going through things like general questions about support tickets, what to put on them, what sort of responses, actions to take for self-resolution, common issues, and lesser-known features of support. So, Chris, to start us off, what are some of the general questions you guys will receive in support?
Well, about support as a whole, one of the common questions is when are our busiest times? Nobody particularly likes sitting in a queue when they've got something very long and complicated to speak about. But being on the phone lines, as you'd imagine, some of the busiest times are right after the phone lines open at 9 o'clock. That lasts about an hour and a half as we go through the calls are waiting to get issues attended to. And we also have a surge prior to the closing time of the phone lines. So a little less of a period, but it's about an hour before the phone lines close at 5, so from 4 o'clock onwards. There's also a little bit of a pickup during around the normal lunch hours for most people, as some people can only raise issues with us during their lunch break. We also get asked about how support tickets are handled and why the customers can no longer email support directly like they once were able to quite a few years ago now. When the ticket's opened, we work on a system where oldest ticket is addressed first. Whilst we use a mass-produced system for billing and tickets, it does mean that there's some features included that we don't make use of. Priority is a option that we don't make any use of. Tickets are addressed oldest first. As to why people can't email in anymore, we moved on from it for a couple of reasons. One of the main products people have from us is email, so having them try to use the product they're having issues with to raise issues when there are times when that's the only option of raising an issue with us by the ticket system didn't make sense. Having it an independent system means that an issue can be raised regardless of whether your email's working or not. The other side of things, as we see a lot from the spam side of things, is that we know all too well how easy it is to imitate an email coming from an email address. As such, we can't use it as a authoritative proof of identity of who it's come from, and thus we went to a system where you have to log in with a username and password, authenticating who you are, and thus showing you have authority to make changes. Now, we're not asked this directly, but is raising a ticket or calling a faster way to get an issue addressed? And like with many things in life, it's an answer of it depends. For simple things like my password's not working, or something direct like I can't connect to my email account, or no emails bouncing back when sent to us, calling generally is a faster way to get that addressed. We can quickly look up things like that and get to the bottom of it fairly quickly. Now, when it comes to other things that require investigation, that's where it becomes more fiddly. So one that comes up an awful lot is people saying that they're not receiving email from specific senders. Person sent it, they've not had a bounce back, and it's not arrived in the mailbox. And to get to the answer of that, we have to check the various logs that we have access to. Now, on a phone call, we'll be trying to access these systems, trying to do a search, trying to take addresses over the phone, where there's unfortunately room for certain letters to be misheard, and thus requiring us to type it in and redo searches. And it just takes longer. If it's raised as a ticket, not only do we have things 100% in stone as to what the address is, we can do the search for through the logs to find all the pertinent information, and also give back the relevant information in a clear, easily understood format, which over the phone, it doesn't really give us the time to do any sort of filtering of the information we're working with, so it can come through a bit more technical over the phone than you would via a ticket.
Brilliant. So you spoke a lot about tickets though. What are the sort of most important and most beneficial information I need it to put into my ticket if I raised one?
Well, things that are beneficial to have in a support ticket with ourselves is basically seeing what's going wrong. If there's error messages, seeing that in full is quite important. There's a lot of error messages that are somewhat similar to each other. So getting the general gist of what was said isn't enough. We really need it in specifics. And generally, a screenshot allows you to show us exactly what's being shown and the full error message at the same time. So screenshots of what you're seeing are great. A list of any steps you've tried to take already to try to resolve the issue. Nobody likes to be told to repeat steps that you've already done. And if we know what you've tried, we can just move on from there using the information that's been gained from attempts to resolve it that way. In the modern day, now that email accounts are being set up on multiple devices, generally a mobile phone along with the normal workstation, potentially even with secondary laptops for working away from an office, it's handy to know if it's an issue that's seen only on one device or if it's seen on all of them. There's been occasions where issues have been tied down to just a specific office, and there's been times where knowing it's affected across multiple devices tends to give us an indication of roughly where an issue may lie and can help speed things up. And probably a thing that's becoming more pertinent at the moment, but it's always been a thing that's been important at times and less important at others, is what version of software is being used to connect with the account. Just recently, due to some changes in January by Microsoft with 365, there were a couple of issues with specific versions of the Office suite. Basically, just knowing what version of the Office suite can often quickly lead to a resolution when it's related to the software that's being used being the source of the problem.
Okay, so what are some of the actions that I can actually take myself first before coming and speaking to you?
Well, it's an old, well-known one, but nonetheless, it still holds true, as there's many issues we see on a regular basis where this is the fix, is basically to switch the device off and then switch it back on. Not necessarily just the device, it could just be the program itself. Sometimes Mac Mail or Outlook just needs to be closed and restarted to resolve an issue that it has. It might seem redundant, but it's often something that's forgotten to be tried and does help with quite a few things. Another thing to check is internet connectivity. As a cloud service provider, many of our products and our service offerings only function if you have a working internet connection. So if that foundation level service, the internet connection, is having problems, it affects pretty much every offering that we have. So it's worth checking that, just checking to see if you can get to a place which constantly updates its content. So a news site, a streaming site, somewhere where you can tell that it's not just bringing up a cached web page from going to it, say, yesterday. Checking the email, if the email account is working correctly by itself, is worth looking at. For those who are still on our legacy 2013 platform, the webmail can be found at exchange.mse2010.com/OWA. But by now, most of you should know that there's an ongoing project to move everyone off that platform as it's coming to the end of its life. And that means that for the vast majority of people, the webmail address can be found at outlook.office.com. Basically, just by trying to log in, you can quickly find out if there's truly a problem with connecting to your account, because the only thing it asks for is your username and password, your username being your email address, and the password is either the right one or it's the wrong one. There's not much room for arguments when it comes to basically logging into the webmail. If you can log in, you can then check if the account does have problems sending email, and you can also see what email has been received by the account, because you might just have problems with a device retrieving email from the account rather than a problem actually receiving email.
Mm-hmm.
Now, leading on with how it's now quite common to have multiple devices connected to an account, one thing that could be tried was just checking to see if the multiple devices are all having a problem connecting to the account. That way you can just see.
Is something like that something you'd usually pop up as a technical engineer? Like, what are some other questions that you'd usually have if it's something similar to that?
Some of the common issues that we are seeing these days, just what's coming up in tickets. Lately, people have not been receiving. Well, they've been saying they've not been receiving an email people have sent. They've had no bounce backs, and through digging through the logs, it turned out that the quarantine system in 365 have been picking up on some email. It's not something that's widely informed about, but on 365 it has a system where it can quarantine email, and by default it doesn't inform you that anything's been quarantined. So what you can do, even as an end user, you can go to https://security.microsoft.com/quarantine and log in with your account there, and it will list anything that it's quarantined. You would be able to release most items yourself, but due to some changes in security, a classification of high confidence phishing can only be released by a person with administration rights on the 365 tenant. Unfortunately, there's very few options at the moment for trying to work around a high confidence phishing classification. And all you can really do is go in there and check if something's been caught and release it. We've also been having an ongoing number of tickets and calls about newly created mailboxes not receiving email. That's been boiling down to people with a third-party anti-spam solution in the way. We provide one ourselves, Future Spam, but there are others that are in use by numerous ones of our customers. Just off the top of my head, the likes of Barracuda, Spam Titan, Mimecast. These are all systems that accept mail, process it for filtering before passing it on to the email server. And some of them do need to have the user configured there separately before it can process mail through to pass on to the mailbox. So for those who have Future Spam with ourselves, if you make a new mailbox, it'd be a case of raising a ticket or giving us a call to let us know that a new mailbox has been made, what the address is, and just ask us to get it covered on Future Spam. We are seeing an increase of mail rejected when it's sent to Gmail addresses. So I expect on the whole it's going to become more and more widespread. The Gmail mail system has been putting more stringent expectations of what they want from people sending to them to have in place. So there's two main bits of technology that it's looking for. SPF, which is a piece of information you put on your domain that tells the world where you send mail from. Then there's another one called DKIM, where mail you send is digitally signed, and that digital signature can be checked against your domain to make sure that the email that's come through has been unedited from the time it's been sent. And Gmail is looking for those to be in place. We can't offer DKIM on our 2013 platform, but both of these features can be fully implemented on 365. And another technology called DMARC, which depends on the two, which is also looked for, it can also be implemented as well. And having those in place will make it much more likely that Gmail will accept the email, as they know it's a properly configured mail system and a lot less likely to be a source of spam. And another one we're seeing at the moment is issues with Microsoft Office suites not connecting to 365. Now, by now, I'd hope that most people who've had who'd be affected from the change in January when Microsoft terminated certain older ways of providing usernames and passwords to them were brought to an end. But for those who may have devices that are used infrequently, if you have an issue where you open up Outlook and it keeps asking for the password and yet never connecting, it'd be worthwhile dropping a ticket through to support, as their fix to it is unfortunately somewhat technical, and it's best to have it in writing because it's very specific. But another side to it is, at the moment, Microsoft 365 only really supports being connected to by Office 2016 and later. That's due to change in October this year, where 2016 and 2019 are no longer going to be supported. So we've had a number of cases where people have been trying to connect with Office 2010, and it just has no hope of connecting anymore.
Mhm. So the final thing I wanted to ask about was what are maybe some of the lesser known features that support can offer a potential customer?
Well, some of our less known features, a good main one is the flexible professional services that we have. So whether it be customizing some of the settings on 365, because an awful lot of 365 is configurable, and you can make things more aggressive or much more relaxed just by customizing the settings. And not everyone has the skill set to know what they need to change to get what they want achieved. We can remote control onto people's machines to help with problems connecting with accounts that can't be resolved over the phone. But we can also remote control on to deal with other issues, such as needing to get some data copied across from, say, one cloud account to another. Pretty much anything that you might need. It's just a case of asking if we just telling us what you want achieved, and then we can tell you if we can can help in any way, and roughly how long we expect it to take to actually get it done. Outside of the professional services, something that we've been doing for a very long time in support, at least close to a decade, if not quite a bit longer, is because a number of our customers only can raise issues during normal lunch hours, so between 12 o'clock and 2ish. For a long time, support has only ever taken its lunch 2 o'clock onwards. This means we've got all the manpower we can have available at that time, so we can make sure that people can get through and can get their issues raised and addressed. And another thing is you can absolutely just give us a call to ask about what backup solutions are in place, which it's taken for granted that as a cloud solution that there is a serious system for backups in place, and unfortunately on a lot of cloud services that's not quite the case. So with Office 365 on the email side of things, if an email's deleted, it holds on to it so that it can be recovered for a number of days. That just allows you to recover the email. It doesn't remember what folder that email was in, or if it was altered beforehand. All it is recovering that particular email at the state of deletion. And then it expands into the likes of OneDrive for Business and SharePoint with how it stores files. If you really have mission critical data, you should really look into having a separate backup solution. Because if something does happen in SharePoint and it wipes out all the data, there isn't anything that's built in that would allow it to recover the data. We do offer a solution called Acronis that does tie into 365 quite nicely. That it does cover every aspect of 365 for what you can back up, and you basically buy space for it and configure it to back up what you need. If you're comfortable with those things, yeah, you can configure that easily enough, but it might be something that you'd want to make use of our professional services with, just a case of telling us what you wanted backed up and we'd get it configured to meet your requirements. And likewise with security. Security is, everyone wants to be secure, but not everyone needs it locked down to a point where you need the assistance of 3 people on specific locations to help you log in. But if you can advise as to roughly what level of security you want, we can advise on ways, things that can be changed, things that could be implemented. Common thing these days that you'd really want in place is multi-factor authentication, and that's just simply a case of turning on a couple of options in 365. But it can go a lot deeper as how far it goes, as you can even lock it down to only being able to log on to the accounts from a specific office, basically by locking it down to specific IP addresses to connect. So we can advise how far we can go and discuss with you what you need and help that get put in place.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's a fantastic insight into everything to do with support in a nutshell, really. A big thanks to you, Chris, today for today's webinar. And thanks to everyone else that come along and watching today's webinar. We will be back again on Wednesday, the 22nd of March with Colin Smith for Dynamics Business Central. Thank you, everyone.